This series of stories is aimed at alumni from St Anne's College, Oxford.
Hello, I'm Lynn Biggs. Now, when I was at St Anne's, I was Lynn Perrin, and I was there from 1972 to 77. I studied metallurgy and materials science, which was a 4-year course, and then I spent a year doing a master's. I chose to go to St Anne's really because the only other woman who had studied that subject had been to St Anne's. And so I thought it made sense to go somewhere where at least the books were in the library.
Why did you study metallurgy?
Well, at school I'd been interested in chemistry and physics, and I hadn't really considered going to Oxford, but I had a very supportive chemistry teacher who suggested I try the exams. Neither of my family had ever been to university before, so I didn't really hold out much hope of getting in, so I thought perhaps choose a subject where there's less competition. And I was also quite interested in the more practical side of science, like going out in a factory and designing things, doing something practical rather than theoretical. So this course sounded interesting, and it was very small. There were only 20 undergraduates there, and I discovered that there was one woman who'd studied it the year above me, and she was at St Anne's, so that's why I applied for St Anne's first. I in fact found that the course that I studied at Oxford was extremely theoretical, and although it was very interesting, it was really theoretical solid-state physics. So I had to do a rethink about what I wanted to do afterwards. But I certainly felt that having studied at Oxford, it gave me a lot more choices. I felt it had widened my ambitions rather than sort of kept me on the same route that I'd been planning to go on. I spent a year doing a master's, thinking that I might perhaps like being in academia and carry on and do a PhD. I'd spent my master's working on a computing project, which was actually to do with the periodicals library in the Radcliffe Science Library. So it wasn't really to do with the course that I'd worked on. But from that, I decided I wanted to work in IT, and I eventually became one of the first breed of computer programmers in the late 70s. Well, studying metallurgy and materials science, there weren't any lecturers in that subject in college, although the first year I studied chemistry, and so I remember Hazel Rizzotti very well. She was my tutor and continued as my moral tutor.
Any notable memories from your time in Oxford?
Well, particular memories I have about St Anne's was the smell of the library, drinking warm Ribena out in the gardens, which you collected from the buttery. We didn't seem to drink coffee in those days. We had warm Ribena. We saved the coffee for in the evenings after supper, and we would gather in each other's rooms and be drinking coffee there. I remember being involved in a performance of Pirates of Penzance in the Heartland Room, which was one of the first times I actually got to sing, and I've been a keen singer since then, so I think that really started something for me. One thing I will always remember is that in my 4th year I was living in a flat above the principal's lodgings. That was Mrs. Trenneman. She must have thought I was a well-behaved sort of girl to be able to live up there, but I remember being invited one evening to go down and have a glass of sherry, and I was introduced to Dame Janet Baker and had a chat to her, so I will always remember that. She was one of my heroines. Very much value the friendships that I made there. I've kept in touch with a group of about 8 of us. We don't see each other very often, perhaps only every 5 years or to reunion, but we always pick up as if we seen each other last week. In particular, there was Andy Seymour, who was really keen on music and opera, and she got me interested in that. There was Ruth Hutchison, Susan Harrison, Kate Fallon, that was her name. I was just trying to remember surnames. I know of them as Christian names now, really.
What did you do in your spare time?
Being someone on a small course, we were quite close to the other students from other colleges, so we would spend our time hanging out as a group in someone's room. I remember spending quite a lot of time in Trinity College. But outside that, I became interested in singing. I joined the choirs. I got involved with the dramatic production with Worcester College and did that for several seasons, as well as the usual parties and bars.
How has St Anne's helped you in later life?
Well, I didn't really have much contact after I left St Anne's until about 5 or 6 years ago, when I became involved in the St Anne's Society. It used to be called the Senior Association of Senior Members. And I've met a lot of people who I perhaps could have known when I was at St Anne's, but I didn't. But I found them to be a very supportive set of friends. We have good fun together, organising events and just getting to know each other and getting more involved with St Anne's again.
We would love to capture more stories from St Anne's alumni, and so if you would like to take part, please contact us on the email address below.